Welcome, welcome. We would like to take a moment to explain some terminology because we use a lot of different tools to help you in your transformation. And so I would like to ask Lumenaria about one of the tools that was brought to her, how it came about, and what it means. This special tool is called Sacred Geometric Light Emanations, and sometimes she calls it flames. So, Luminari, would you mind telling us first what they are and then how they came about?
Totally. So the sacred geometric light emanations is what I call a spiritual technology. So it's a way of using intelligent light frequency called light emanations, or sometimes called flames, in and around the body in certain geometric forms to facilitate an intercommunication in the language that our biospiritual system understands. So everything in the world of form, everything that we see is a combination of vibration, light or sound, and form, structure, geometry. And so this is the language that bypasses the intellect, it bypasses the conscious mind, goes right to the molecular psychospiritual organization of our being. And what's very unique about the sacred geometric light emanations is that they are kinetic moving light. So the geometries will often, with the flames, will often spin. And that spinning actually opens up something in the DNA called the spin cell. And it literally spins the light right into the DNA. So if we think of the DNA as a place, one of the ways I think about it, I love how Bruce Lipton talks about this, is so like the DNA is like the plans. Our soul and our connection to the divine, that's the architect, but the DNA is like the plans. So the architect decides what turns on and off. And so when we invoke these light emanations into the DNA, it's giving the DNA a message about what codes to turn on. And in this case, we're asking that the codes of our light body in relationship to whatever we're working on literally get turned on, literally get illuminated. And so over time, as we work with the light emanations in this form of the sacred geometric light emanations, we begin to activate our DNA in a new way, and even into what's called the 12-strand DNA, which is a full activation of the human light body and the intelligence of the divine mind living in the flesh, in the form.
That's beautiful. And how did they come about? How did you discover this flames?
Mm. Well, as with many things, necessity breeds innovation and grace. I had back in there's sort of like two things that happened. Back in 2003, I had a very, very big awakening and remembrance. And in that awakening and remembrance, I was um shown many things that took years to decode, so to speak. And one of the things I was shown is this entire language of light, which I now understand the sacred geometric light emanations to be a part of. But around that same time, I was also working with someone who was really struggling. They had been involved in a cult, and we would work in their energy and kind of clear the energy of the cult leader, and they would feel better. And then 24, 48 hours later, that energy would be back in and they would be feeling miserable again. And so I'd done everything I knew how to do with all the tools I had, and finally took it into prayer and just said, there has to be a better way. Like, you've got to help me understand how to help this person. And Spirit said to me, go take a nap. And so I said, I was being obedient. And so I went and laid down. And in the dream time, which is one of the ways that Spirit speaks to me, I was shown the chakras, and Spirit said to me, I was shown them differently than we often think of them, as these sort of vortices of light. I was actually shown them as these platforms that sat at each level. And they looked kind of like vinyl records with the grooves that are in a vinyl record. And Spirit said to me, these are the platforms of creation. And I understood in the dream that those grooves sort of dictated the frequencies that we could co-create at each level of creation that corresponds with the seven chakras in the main seven chakras in the body. And I woke up and I thought, okay, well, that was very beautiful. And I'm grateful to know that, but I still didn't know how to help my client. And so later that day, they arrived and I explained to them that I took it into prayer time. I had also called a colleague of mine at the time, Norma Feldman, who'd done a bunch of teaching for me on working with supernatural energies, energies that are not natural to the human biospiritual system of any given individual. And I put a call into her and left a message like, can you help me with this? And I hadn't heard back. So I'm sitting with the client, I'm telling her this, and all of a sudden I see over to my right Christ standing there, Jesus Christ. And I said to the client, Christ is here. And they were not necessarily um, Christian per se, but they understood that there was sacred presence. And
Mhm.
Christ came over to me and took this hand and turned it like this and set this spinning ball of blue light in this hand. And then he took this hand over and set this spinning ball of silver light in this hand. And he says, now put them together and use them on the platforms.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so I kind of went like this. And as they got close, they magnetized like magnets to each other. And they became like this unit, and each had its unique color and spin because the blue one was spinning clockwise and the silver counterclockwise, but they were like this thing. And I went to the client and I placed it into their third eye. I just knew not to do the crown. I went right into their third eye, and it literally just like went in. And one of my sacred gifts is to feel what people feel in their body. I'm clairsentient. And I could feel that it was like someone had an egg beater and was like scrambling, and they could feel it too. They were like, whoa. And we didn't know. We were just in the allowing. And what happened is spontaneously they dropped down into the throat and then the heart and then the solar plexus, sacral center root. They hit at about the level of their knees, their ankles, and then they went out the soles of the feet and they just left. And the client was free. It was complete. Then the energy never came back. She was liberated from that
Wow.
cult. And so that was the beginning. And then subsequently, after I got a call back from Norma, and I told her, I think I have it handled. This is what happened. And she goes, wait, so you had one ball that was silver and one ball that was or blue? And I was like, yes. She goes, I think I know what that is. And I said, oh, what is it? And she was working at the time with a woman, Marie Diamond, who has since become pretty popular for, I think, feng shui type work. But at the time, Marie Diamond was working with these 24 flames, she called them. Um, and in a very particular way, it was like you would meditate with these flames and they were associated with certain archangels. And so I said, oh, well, Norma, I guess I need to learn about that. And then we set up a time for her to come and train myself and some of my clients and colleagues. And in between that time, all these flames started coming to me. And so I would call Norma, what's the red flame? What's the pink flame? And finally she was like, okay, you're getting all the flames. You're just like, they're coming. So she gave me these 24 flames. And what started to happen then is each time I would sit with a client, different flames would come, and they would want to come in different forms. So they started to go around the body or, in the body in different ways. And what became this gradual unfolding of 144 light emanations coming through me, with lots of ways of working with them to support radical transformation of very complex multidimensional issues. So
That's
that
it.
was that's the story in a nutshell.
And so What are some of the names? Like if you could tell me a few names of the flames that you've created.
Yeah, so the flames that came through, I call them the Awaken Unity flames, and they are very much about that. And they are like what I could say is they're a complete body of teachings.
Mm,
The light, I think of the light because of how I've seen it work. They're like mentors and they teach us, not as you and I would with words or images or like that, but directly into the biospiritual system, waking up the intersection between whatever is our personality and our life story and whatever is true for us as soul. And so the light emanations are things like immaculate unconditional love,
mm,
infinite resurrection, divine holistic awareness. Uh,
mm. Those are beautiful. I love that. And now, does the person that is receiving this light emanations, do they need to understand or know for them to work?
hmm. Yeah, so what's different about this than some other meditative practices? This isn't actually a meditative practice. It's not a visualization. It's not there's not understanding of the nuance of the geometry required or of what all the light has to teach in order for it to teach. This is an invocation. So we are literally calling in wise ones of pure light to teach our biospiritual system, to awaken our biospiritual system, to balance our biospiritual system, to cleanse or clear our biospiritual system. And so we are simply receivers. So we have the role that we have is not an active role in that, like, okay, how do I make that spin? What color is it again? How does it? It's not like that. This is
Mhm.
about simply allowing the invocation of that grace to come and minister to you.
I love that. I remember in a plant medicine journey that I had, I was shown how everything is geometry. And honestly, if you look at everything is a geometric figure. Every single thing, our plants, there is a geometry in everything. And I
Mhm.
see the sacredness of all of that. And there's also a researcher at MIT that was able to see beyond time and space, and he calls this positive geometry. So the sacred geometry light emanation is something so tangible, it's as spiritual as it is scientific, and it's
Mhm.
just such a it's convergent.
Urgent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
convergence is such a beautiful convergence of magic, you know.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
really is a sacred blessing. And we feel so blessed to be able to share this technology with you and to give you an opportunity to kind of receive what I would call is sort of like quantum catapulting that working with the sacred geometric light emanations creates.
Yes. And so for our series and for our gatherings, we use this sacred geometric light emanation. So we wanted to record this video so you can understand a little bit more the work that we're doing and the powerful medicine that we are imparting in every one of our sessions. Thank
Totally.
you for watching and
Yeah.
being with us and joining us.
Thank you, everyone. Blessings.
Thank you. Blessings.